All right, guys. So now let's get to actually setting up the socket. And for that, we're going to need a reducer called chatReducer.js. And we'll create a const called default state, which is going to have socket null. Message is a blank string. And say threads is an empty array. And current thread, let's say just a blank string for now. And then const chat is going to be, well, let's say state equals default state, and then action. And so let's create the switch of action.type. And the default is going to be return state. Now let's export default chat. Save this. In our root reducer, let's import chat from chat reducer. And then we'll say chat right there. Let's save this. And inside of app, let's also subscribe to state.chat. Now let's save this. And if I look at this again and we inspect the app, we'll see that now we have all of the properties related to the chat reducer. So what we're going to need to do is we'll need to set up the socket. And how we'll do that is we will create an actions file for chat actions. And also while we're at it, we'll create a new file for auth actions. So in chat actions, we'll need a function to run to actually set up a socket connection between our application and the server. The server will run on port 8080, and we'll get to setting that up in the next video. But for right now, let's set up the React side code. Now, this is a very simple function. Basically, what we'll do is we'll export const. It's going to be called setup socket. And it'll get no properties by default, I guess. But what we will do is we will say const socket equals new WebSocket. And then we'll need to specify the host. So for right now, this will be HTTP localhost at port 8080. And then we'll say socket on open. It's going to be a function. For right now, let's do nothing, but let's dispatch, I guess, type. It's going to be setup socket, and then payload will be socket. Let's save this, and then in our chat reducer, let's grab that right here and say case setup socket. What we'll do is we'll return the existing state with socket equal to action.payload. Now let's save this, and it's going to do nothing. because we currently haven't done anything. So inside of app.js, let's create a function called setupSocket. It's going to be a function, and we're just going to dispatch chat actions dot setup socket. And then we'll need to import all as chat actions from current directory store actions chat actions. Now let's save this. And dispatch is not defined. And that is because inside of our chat actions, before we do anything, we need to return with dispatch. And then let's indent this a little bit. Save this. Now, when I go and inspect the app, we'll see setup socket exists there. Socket is still null because we're not actually doing anything. So in the app right here, we're going to change this from a function to class app extends react.component. And we'll say component did mount. What we need to do is call this .props.setup socket. And then we'll turn the return function here into a render function. And down here, let's just close that. And we need to indent a little bit to fix the indentation. And now let's save this. And okay, yes. So the socket failed to connect because we're using HTTP. We need to change that to use WS as the protocol. And now we get no error, but the socket did not connect because we currently don't have a socket server running. So there was an error in connection establishment. So now what we're going to do is move into creating the WebSocket server itself.